Good evening and hello everyone, and a very happy Douglass Week to you all, and also a happy Black History Month to everyone watching in the US. I'm Dr. Caroline Dunham-Schroeder. I'm the founder of Douglass Week, and we're absolutely thrilled that we get to share this fantastic week of events with you all. And thank you for tuning in today here live on YouTube for this wonderful event. And I'm here with my lovely colleague and friend and Douglass Week co-founder, Kristen Leary. Hello, Kristen.
Hello, thank you, Caroline, and thanks everyone for joining us. Happy Douglass Week. Day 2, we had a great day 1 with some really fascinating conversations and connections. And we're equally excited about day 2 and the conversation coming up here today with our friends from Cork, Ireland, Cork Migrant Centre and Nano Nagle Place, as well as other places in the United States, including Rochester, New York, with representatives from Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives and Anna Murray Douglass Academy.
Yeah, we're super excited. I've been looking forward to this event all week. And, we created Douglass Week to celebrate and to commemorate the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass, of course, on the one hand, and everything that he stands for. And of course, other change makers as well from around the world. And there's loads of change makers like, these beautiful people here in this group today. And our aim is, of course, to do that, but it's also to commemorate, the history of Douglass, his family, but also to discuss contemporary issues, to bring the past into the present and to discuss identity, race, independence, equal rights around the world, but also to celebrate some of our guiding concepts or principles like connectedness, like co-creation, like collaboration, and this kind of transatlantic intercultural exchange. We're absolutely delighted and super thrilled that tonight's event is actually going to do exactly that.
Thank you very much. And we'll hand over to our co-MCs, Fionnuala O'Connell and Paul Oakley-Stovall, in just a minute. But before that, just a few small items of housekeeping. First is this event will last about 1 hour. Second, if you have any questions, comments, inspirational quotes, or ideas, please enter them into the chat on YouTube. We will be monitoring that, and we will pass any comments or other messages on to our panelists and our speakers. And finally, this is a respectful dialogue. Please be respectful in your comments and with the panelists and your fellow attendees. And we really appreciate you keeping this respectful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being respectful and keeping this a safe space for conversation. For your information, also, this event is obviously live right now on YouTube, but it's also recorded. So you get the chance, if you missed it or if you missed another event during Douglass Week, that everything will be available on YouTube and you can watch and rewatch as much as you want. And of course, you can check out our program for Douglass Week. You'll see lots of these wonderful faces again for a couple of other events. So check out our program on our website, www.douglassweek.org. And now, without further ado, thank you for being here, everyone. And we hope that you have a lot of fun tonight, that enjoy this next Douglass Week event. And I will now hand over to Councillor Mary Rose Desmond, Deputy Lord Mayor of Cork and Chair of the Cork City Council's Women's Caucus. Thank you for being here, and I hand over to you.
Thank you very much indeed for that. I suppose good evening and good afternoon to everybody. As Deputy Lord Mayor of Cork and as Chair of the Women's Caucus in Cork City Council, I welcome you to this evening's event, and it's a great honour for me to have been asked to participate as part of the Douglass Week 22 programme. I'm particularly delighted to be involved in an event that has young people to the fore, which this particular session does, both here in Cork, in Ireland, and in the United States. I want to thank actually the Douglass Week team in general and for all of the programme that they have put together. this year for the weekend. I'm looking forward to actually getting to watch more of it over the weekend and participate locally as well here in person. I think this is a very interesting event. I was speaking with Fionnuala O'Connell, one of the hosts for this evening earlier today, and I suppose we were discussing the wonderful title of this evening's event, I Am Remarkable. And I suppose how for most of us that it's not a sentence that we would use about ourselves, and we can often fall into the trap of that imposter syndrome feeling, and I think that's particularly true for women. But in truth, I suppose, as campaigners and activists and advocates, we are remarkable to be willing to step up and step forward to do better and demand better for our world. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing the lineup of speakers and more of those remarkable people to hear their contributions in the session today. I suppose I've been asked, as I said, to speak as Deputy Lord Mayor, but mainly in the context of women in politics and chair of Cork City Council's Women's Caucus. And just to put it in context, I represent a group of what I view as remarkable women across the political divide here in Cork who are working together to see more women in politics and beyond our own individual political gain or otherwise. And in the context of what it is here in Ireland, I suppose particularly for our audience abroad, we rank 100th in the world for female representation in our national parliament, and we're even more underrepresented in local politics. And despite having a record number of women, 566 women contest our last local government elections in 2019, we actually still only make up 29% of the candidates, and in the end, 24% that were actually elected. And I'm sorry to say that only 6 women were elected in Cork in that election. And that's only 90% of our overall council membership. And I suppose what we have been feeling is that a lot of the focus has been on national institutions and not on local government. And that progress then has been very slow. So we decided just 12 months ago now, coming up on a 12-month anniversary, International Women's Day last year, to a historical day really from a Cork City Council perspective, to form that Women's Caucus and to go about engaging and representing women better with our local communities, and to try and encourage more participation by women in general in politics, but actually to seek them to run in our next lot of local elections in 2024. In doing so, we put together a number of videos, and those videos, I suppose they were video montages that highlighted what motivated us and the challenges that were facing women. And I suppose the videos showed, the suite of videos that we had, they showed what inspired us to run for politics in the first place, the challenges we face and the challenges that we believe that are still there in local democracy. And we will be showing one of those videos when I do finish speaking. And I suppose what's been exciting for us in this 12 months, we were quite, we're a formidable group of women, and some have been involved in politics from different backgrounds and different reasonings and different political beliefs as well. But they've all been put to one side for what we believe is the need to see more women to the fore. And I suppose really, as we say, the very cliched phrase of if you see it, you can be it. And I suppose we've gone about straight away organising a research project with University College Cork here to identify very specific barriers to women in Cork. We had Be the She Change webinar, Women in Politics last November, and I believe there's a number of people that are on this that were actually viewed that webinar. And that was very insightful and a very, very interesting afternoon that has gone down very well and has galvanized a lot of focus locally here for us with regards to our cause. We're very involved, just I suppose speaking as well to our younger viewers, a period poverty programme that we have City Council now backing fully, and that it's taken nearly 12 months, but with regards to with funding and the logistics are now pretty much in place to roll that out throughout the city. And we'll be very much targeting over the next 12 months. And when I say targeting, I mean targeting information to our threshold voters right across the city. And our young people, particularly females, because we want to see women involved and step up and realise that there isn't any big mystery to getting involved in politics, but it makes all of the difference, because if we're not around the table we're representing over 50% of the population, and we're not there in the numbers that we should be in to actually see our voices be recognised in the way that they should be. Cork City Council has previously run a lot of initiatives like Shape Your City, Use Your Vote, aimed particularly at new communities and cultures in the city. And we're going to grow on that for this year. And I know I have spoken in the past with Dr. Naomi Machete, and I know that I'm looking forward to working with the Migrant Center in Cork as well over the not too distant future, because I do believe that it's young people are integral to the role that we are going to be playing in doing this. And I suppose I would feel very strongly that we just can't take anything for granted. I've recently viewed Cork as a very strong heritage and history with regards to becoming the independent state that we are, and 1922 in particular being a good year. And the 1920s, when we look back on that now, and in our decade of commemorations that we're currently going through here in Ireland, we're realising the huge role that women had to play in that time. But they have gone back and into the background. It has disappeared over the years. And it's actually taken us nearly 100 years to even recognise the work that they did then and the remarkable people that they were then. And I suppose we want to make sure that that can't continue to happen. And we're very, very conscious. And I think that proves more than anything else that just change isn't inevitable. We have to work at it, and we have to keep to the fore and see beyond to the bigger picture, that we see women getting more involved with politics, and that it has a knock-on impact right through our communities. So I won't take any more of your time. I'm looking forward to the rest of the sessions, and quite happy to take any questions as well at any point if there is the format for that. Thank you very much indeed again for including me in this. And I let you with this short clip from the Women's Caucus of Cork City Council. Thank you.
We have to start encouraging girls to believe that they can do whatever they want in the world. You can say to girls, you could go into politics someday and change the world. One girl can change the world.
This is the person that's championing and going forward in their community already, that somebody needs to say, have you ever considered? They may never have thought of it. It could be as simple as that.
That we need half of the voices that are in the room to be female. And within that spectrum, we need people from migrant backgrounds, people with a disability, people with a different sexual orientation.
What I really noticed then in my niece and goddaughter, who's just turned 10, she takes it as a given that I am a woman and in politics.
I think the gender quotas is a help. It's not ideal in an ideal world, because I think we're all equal. We're just different perspectives. I definitely think you cannot do it, particularly when you talk about diversity and inclusion, unless you get a proper wage, and that you have a buddy system where somebody can guide you through outside of the party structure, because in the party structure it's adversarial.
We run, from a council perspective, from a national parliament perspective, we run things to a very structured way that probably hasn't changed for decades. These are practical things. So if somebody needs to have childcare or has a family commitment or has another commitment, whatever the commitment is, 5 hours of a meeting at a point in the day that's on top of a whole day you've had already is just too much.
And I suppose the other interesting thing is women are more heavily criticised for doing the same mistakes. And they've done research on this, and both men and women will be more critical of females making mistakes than males.
Yeah, so the system is actually appalling. There is no maternity leave for councillors. The system, the way it works is if I don't turn up to a meeting, I'm marked as absent. We know now full well what the problems are. Like, I went to a National Women's Council meeting, I'd say nearly 20 years ago, big seminar, and they spoke about the challenges that women face. The challenges then are the same now. Nothing has changed, except it just seems to be like lip service to throw money at these things, pretend we care, sure, just throw money, kind of round up the troops, pat in the back, but at the end of the day, all them women go home and they never get into politics because no one has provided any, you can tell them till the cows come home the problems and the challenges, but no one has fixed any of those things, like maternity leave. Not being entitled to maternity leave in 2021. Disgraceful.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rose Desmond, for that talk and the video. And actually, issue of democracy are issues that Frederick Douglass would have been very key and important to him. And I think he did say in 1846 that the cause of the slave was the cause of all oppressed people. And I think when you're talking about social justice and issues of inclusion, what you've just talked about and said is really key to what you're talking about, the issues of Frederick Douglass, 19th century translated to 21st century Cork, so to speak, or Ireland. Today, I'm really, really happy. My name is Naomi Machete. I am the program coordinator of the Cork Migrant Centre, and I'm really, really happy to be here today and to be once again working with the Douglass team. We met them last year when we were presenting Douglass Week Cork. We formed a family bond that's very strong, strengthened again when they came to visit us in the summer, planted a tree to commemorate the visit of Frederick Douglass at Nagle place. So we are really happy to just look at that and be reminded of that. Frederick Douglass was absolutely remarkable. He was a slave. He had indomitable spirit. He beat so many odds to become a global figure. And I think what really pulls all of us at the Cork Migrant Centre about him is because we can relate with him. This is the story we have. We see every day of these remarkable young people, just ordinary people doing extraordinary things with very little resources. And they are remarkable as he was remarkable. And so, and our cause is to fight for really justice in kin with other people, whether it's racial or gender or whatever other oppressed group there is, and to fight kinship there. And that's why we, like in the likes of Frederick Douglass, he fought in Daniel O'Connor's of the day. And so that's why we call everybody who works with us in kinship. Very happy with the family at Nagle Press, the team from the board to the managers. Very happy with the city council, the friendship and support we've had from them. Cork, CPC, Tracy, thank you very much. The group in Wakada, Forcer refugees in UCC, like everybody who is with us and fighting with us and saying, we want to put these young people at the front of change because they are the front of change. They are demanding change and they want to be part of that change. And I'm very, very happy tonight to introduce my co-worker, Fionnuala O'Connell, who is be hosting with Paul, part of the Douglass team, who I'm very happy to call family. So they'll be the host for today. And we have a lineup of remarkable speakers who are going to join us today. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to the hosts of tonight, Fionnuala O'Connell and Paul Stouffer. Thank you.
Fionnuala! The scary thing is you and I could just sit and talk for the next 30 minutes and forget that we have to get on with this program. I miss you. I miss hearing your voices, all the different dialects. It just warms my heart because it physically brings me back to Cork. And so I want to thank Naomi, and I want to thank Mary Rose and the city of Cork and Rafa and Fionnuala and everyone that I miss so terribly. And let's get remarkable. What's going on, sis?
Awesome. Thank you everyone for coming. And I think we're just going to get started. We have some amazing speakers here, and I'm just gonna introduce Sandrine. And Sandrine is an English PhD student in UL and co-produced a documentary and called On Silencing Black Voices. And she's going to tell you all about the amazing work she does and continues to do. So I'm going to hand her over.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I think when you'd messaged me in regards to taking part in an event like this, I was really moved with it, because I think with me, when it comes to anything, any of the different works that I do, I just do it because I'm annoyed of something and I really want to like shake it up and take up spaces. So it's really great to be recognized for the work that I do. So just as Fionnuala had said, my activism and my creative realm really started back in 2020 with the death of George Floyd, where I saw how in Ireland, like, there was a conversation about how racism doesn't exist. And it was something that, at least we don't have it as bad here in Ireland. And it's a very American issue. So I remember when that came, obviously I had experienced racism growing up in Ireland, being Rundese and Irish. And because, again, in Ireland, we are at a unique set where, again, like the changing nature of Irish identity, and like where for some people, like Irishness is still very stuck and fixated on it being linked to whiteness. So when someone who comes across that's Black and Irish claims to be Irish, there's a pushback there in regards to nationality and ethnicity. So it's something that I'd always experienced, but I never, first of all, I kind of found the language for doing it or the space to really explore what it meant to have a dual identity. So when it came to 2020, I think it was just with COVID where there wasn't anything to do. So I was myself and my friend Catherine Osakaya came up with the idea of doing a documentary where we would ask young people across Ireland, which were Black and mixed race, to think of an incident of racism that had happened to them. But our main twist of it was to think of it as something like a 1-minute clip. So you have to filter through however long you've been in Ireland, whether or not you've been born here or anything like that, to one specific moment that really stood out to you where you experienced racism. So when we did the documentary, we did it in the sense of, we split up the documentary with being primary school, secondary school, college, and work life. And with that, we wanted to debunk the myth of how, racism is something that only happens to you once. We proved that no, it can happen to you your whole lifetime, that even if you land your dream job and you're in this acclaimed places, that again, just by the color of your skin or your last name or your ethnicity, you still experience racism. So when we did the documentary, of course, we were really nervous with the backlash that we were going to get, because as I said, Ireland is still very new to talking about racism, where it's a very hush-hush thing and it's a taboo topic. So we really knew that. But again, we understood how it was something that was greater than the two of us. We needed to start that conversation for the younger generation, but then also for people which did come from Black backgrounds but have been born in Ireland. So like, at least like if I had experienced racism and someone would be like, go back to where you came from, I knew Rwanda, but what about my little brothers who were born in Kilkenny? If you say that to them, Carlo is all that they know. So what did that mean? So that was the really driving factor for that. And after the documentary came out, we saw that we were invited to do different talks in school, colleges, and everything like that. So we're like, okay, so there is a willingness for Ireland to really open up their conversation about that. And for me, one of my, it's a good and a bad thing. Like, I never stop working. So I was like, okay, we've done a documentary. What other format can we get to express the different social issues that are affecting Ireland? Because when we did the documentary, we realized it's a very triggering and traumatic thing to ask someone to think of a specific moment of racism and talk about it to the whole of Ireland, where they'll know your name, they'll be able to criticize what you said. So what other different forms can we do that? So it was, again, at the end of 2020, I started thinking about it because, like, I love writing. So I'm a third-year PhD student doing African literature. But again, I'd done it only from a very academic sense. And I'd never really done creative writing after like my leaving cert. So I think I was traumatized with the leaving cert. So I didn't do anything creative afterwards. But I really understood that when it came to activism, the way I was processing my emotions and processing the different ways I wanted change to happen was by writing my feelings down. So I was like, obviously there has to be other communities in Ireland, and there has to be other marginalized voices who are experiencing the same thing, but maybe just don't want to speak out or don't have the same platform that I do. Because I was very lucky when we did the documentary that I did gain recognition, and people were like, okay, like what other things can we help you with doing? So I took up that opportunity, and that's when I co-founded my magazine Unapologetic. So with Unapologetic, it's an interdisciplinary and cultural and literal, just everything magazine, but the main element of it, it's minority voices and marginalized voices are at the forefront of it. So when it comes to Irish literature, the demographic of it, it's still predominantly white. And like even me doing Irish literature and studying it in college, like it took me until I was doing my master's to come across a Black Irish writer. You know, I had never even thought that that was something that was possible. So with that, I knew that by creating a magazine and taking up that space, and when we came up with the name Unapologetic, it was not apologizing for taking up that space that wasn't opened up for you. So I think that's going to be like, that's the main driving factor for anything that I do. It's if you're doing a work and you can't see yourself in it, create that room, create that space. And again, it's probably a very annoying thing, because I think I'm always on Twitter being like, I'm going to create a new space, I'm going to do this. But I think it's a beautiful thing being able to see the lack of diversity and being like, okay, I really want to go into that room. And I think for me, I never really thought of what I was doing as something that was change making. I think I was like, okay, I'm annoyed about this. There has to be other people which are annoyed with me. And I think it always hits me more like this morning I was giving a talk to a primary school out in my Ross here in Limerick, and there was two little Black kids, and they were like, oh, we didn't even know people like me, right? And I was like, I've done it. I've convinced two young kids that they can be writers, and you can be Black and Irish and write. And I think that's what really hit me today, where I was like, okay, so the work that I'm doing, it is important, because we're raising a generation that, even if it's two young little kids in Limerick, have been like, okay, I want to be a journalist and I want to write books, but they want to be famous in that regards as well. But they understand that there is someone like them that look like that, because that was something that I was definitely missing up when I grew up in Ireland. Like, as I said, it wasn't until I was 22, 23 when I came across Emma Dabiri's work, or Melatu Okoche with This Hostile Life, and that changed the way I viewed it. And so that's going to be like that's my dream goal, like where I just continuously keep taking up space in these creative sphere, whether or not it's through film or literature or anything like that, where I just normalize people like me being in these spaces. And I really hope that other people are inspired by it. And again, continuously they take over spaces on something that I've missed. Like if it turns to like 5 years time and there's like 20 different magazines run by 20 different diverse groups, migrants, anything like that would be the dream goal. And I'm always happy to like share any tips or anything like that we got by doing the magazine and the documentary, because the more diversity there is and the more marginalized voices there are, then like the better Ireland is going to become. So thank you so much.
Okay, so let me see if I got that down. Founder of a magazine, holder of a master's degree, mentor to young children, creative writer, producer of documentaries, and encouraging others, inspiring them to create more spaces. I don't know, Fionnuala, do you think Sandrine is remarkable? What did you all do this morning? What have you all done today? Wow.
There's no question. I've been watching her work from afar and just been admiring this woman. And with the young people we work with, she's truly remarkable and someone that I feel like and is an amazing role model for our young people. And I'm just happy to be on this panel. I'm just happy to be sitting here.
Well, and the thing is, it isn't one of those things where, we can really tread a fine line toward, well, not everybody can do a million things like Sandrine, but that's not what this is about. It's about lifting people up. And it's, Sandrine, you said it in your own words. It's not like you're showing off. You're saying, hey, everybody, I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You find me here, find me there. And if you want to make something, I'm happy to help you. You're helping others be remarkable too. And I think I can easily circle this back to Frederick and Cork, and even back to Mary Rose, who talked about, the incredible contribution of women that for some reason over time keeps ebbing and flowing. And right now it's kind of ebbing. But Isabel Jennings of Cork, who was very close with Frederick, when Sandrine, when you were talking about how people think racism only happens particularly in America, I'm raising my hand. I was one of those people, and I'm a Black American. And when I got to Ireland, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be chill. This is going to be great. And my eyes got really open. And I think it probably was a similar experience for Frederick in 1845, when he suddenly saw the situation and then was overwhelmed by the incredible political contribution of Irish women. And, a year later, he's in Seneca Falls fighting for women's rights to vote. So we're all influencing each other. And I also want to use this transition, now that I spoke about Frederick, to thank you, Sandrine. And we want to hear next from Erica Mock at the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative, who's going to talk about how remarkable she is. Hello, Erica. I can't wait to meet you in person on Monday.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Paul. It's good to see you again. Thank you guys for having me. This is fantastic. Like I'm always looking for, superpowers to fuel me up. And it just sounds as if I'm in good company right now so far. So thank you guys for participating. So yes, my name is Erica Mock. I am the executive director of the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives, an abolitionist and anti-racist organization that is founded by the direct grandson and granddaughter of Frederick Douglass. I am just so honored and so proud to, again, represent this organization and this family because of the remarkable work that they've done. So just to kind of give you guys like a little bit of insight of what this family has accomplished. In 2007, the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives was started with the premise of bringing attention against trafficking, human trafficking, with an approach that teaches children in a preventative manner. So we started to build curriculum based upon the anti-human trafficking awareness measures, and decided to really just go into schools and have the conversation. From there, and I'm kind of jumping ahead, but from there in 2018, we did the Bicentennial Project commemorating the 200th year of his birth. And with that, the book that you all probably most famously know, The Descendants reprinted the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, as written by himself. With that book, and again, I think some of you have already touched with the family when they were in Cork last summer, but that particular book, out of that, we started a project called the 1 Million Abolitionist Project. That project is intended to make sure that that hardback covered book gets in the hands of over 1 million children across the United States. Frederick Douglass's book that is listed as one of the 88 books that changed the shape of this, that shaped the change of this nation. And we have really just had an opportunity to go back to the place that Frederick Douglass lived the longest period in his life for 25 years, and that's in Rochester, New York. So 2 years ago, we decided to actually plant roots back in Rochester and have a actual headquarters there. And that is where I am from. That is where I live now and run the organization from there. But I want to talk more specifically about what one of Frederick Douglass's most famous quotes is that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And with that, we have actually been able to have the remarkable opportunity to work with the specific school that is located on the land that he and Anna Murray last lived in Rochester, that was arsoned and caused them to move here to Washington, D.C. That school, there's something about that school. There is a spirit on that land that just reverberates through the children. And we're really proud that even in this era where critical race theory, for example, is not being allowed to be taught in school systems, we believe at Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives that we can use the story of the Douglasses to be able to show resilience to children who may not have the opportunities, to show them that their world is beyond, and to look at Frederick Douglass and use him as an example of how to overcome. You know, Frederick, I think most importantly, what people should know about him is that first and foremost, he was a man. And he was a man that happened to have the undoubtable fate of being a slave in the United States, but had the agency to go take his freedom back. And he did that with the likeness of what would be his wife, Anna Murray. There was no Frederick without Anna Murray, I will tell you all. And to see that women are talking about her, and they're talking about the life that they had together and what a pivotal role that she was in not only his freedom, but also in making sure that he had everything that he needed to be one of the strongest participants, if not, I biasly can say the participant in the Emancipation Proclamation. And undoubtedly, I don't think that would have happened without Frederick Douglass and the support. So I'm really proud, again, that I, in a very different kind of way, get to be one of the women in his life, just like you all are, by spreading his message and by doing the work based upon his belief systems and his love for humanity. You know, I know that when he came over to Cork and when he came over to Waterford and he came over, he felt such a warm welcome where he had not felt that in his own country. And so, you know, just again, thank you for continuing the spirit on of what Frederick stood for and making sure that voices that are not heard get heard. And that is important. In our lifetimes, we have a lot of work to do, but I think that a journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with one footstep. And this is just this generation and our generation's time to continue and hold that torch and keep the footsteps going. So I'm really pleased again to see you all's faces. And I know that Kenneth Morris Jr., the great grandson, and his mother, Nettie Washington Douglass, the great granddaughter, are watching you all and just filled up with so much pride. So thank you. Thank you guys for allowing me to cut the line a little bit here today. I appreciate that as I need to get off of here in a bit. But again, I look forward to playing this all back, hearing everyone's stories, and really feeling something, because I know you're not here just for any reason. And you should be proud of yourselves. So thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you. Fionnuala, are you unmuted as well?
Yes, I am. I think I was having problems, but
okay. Erica, I just before you go, Erica, I just really want to quickly say not only thank you for mentioning Anna, not just mentioning, but acknowledging that there would be no Frederick without Anna. I think that even in his grandmother, Betsy Bailey, I haven't done all the research, but we need to look into, there are stories that even he wrote of her, taking him and pointing him out into the field, pointing to the fields and seeing people drinking and saying, "You see those? See that? Don't ever let that take you over, Frederick." So the women in his life, even at a young age, starting young, really guided him. And also Anna did what she did with far fewer tools at her disposal, because of course, if you think that life was rough for Frederick, it was even rougher for a woman who was in that time period.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, she did what she did with far fewer tools in her toolbox. And the last thing I want to say is thank you for saying one footstep, one step at a time, just keep going. Because a lot of times I think people think, I need the solution. But solutions are overrated. You just put one foot in front of the other. That's what he did that was remarkable.
And the other thing that he did too, you're right. And the other thing that he did too is that he understood Ubuntu, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He understood that that he couldn't do it alone, whoever it was that he came across. And he really believed that, I am because we are, therefore I am. And that is the message that I think should be reverberated throughout these next several days. And what a way to show tribute to not only him, but the woman that held him up. And that this is going to be an honoring of that. And it's going to be an honoring of even Frederick's mother. Like, thank you for mentioning that, because the reason he chose February the 14th, as we all know, is because his mother called him her little Valentine. So there cannot be a better way to show tribute even to the respect of his mother by honoring him in this beautiful way. So again, sisters and brothers, thank you.
He really had to lean into that Ubuntu. He really had to lean into that in Ireland when he knew no one. He had to lean into it and trust. And there's Hannah Webb and Isabel Jennings, as I've mentioned, the Fisher sisters in Limerick. Like, he really had to lean in and understand, I'm in the situation I'm in. I got to trust my instincts and trust this community. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to use that to throw to Fionnuala back in Cork. What you got to say? Who's next?
Oh, I think I just one more thing, because everything goes full circle. We actually had a project last summer around the theme of Ubuntu with our young people, and it involved a whole performance with UCC, and it was on television. And by you saying that, everything it just connects everything Ubuntu. So I think it's so beautiful, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And thank you so much, and you are remarkable. Thank you. And I'm just going to introduce our next speaker now, Ash. Ash is remarkable. I'll just read. Ash is a trans revolutionary community organizer, friend, volunteer at CMC, family of CMC, and I'm just so excited to be here right now. And thank you for this platform for bringing us all together, and I'm excited.
Hi, Ash. I didn't know Ash was going to be here. How you doing, Ash? Nice to see you.
What's up? It's good to be back. Words can't express my love for the Migrant Center. Naomi, Fionnuala, everyone involved. Y'all took care of me when I came to Ireland, knowing no one. So it's great to be back. Paul, it's great to see you again. Honored to be on this panel, grateful to be a part of this conversation. When we talk about the spirit and legacy of Frederick Douglass, I think of him as an abolitionist, and I really, there's this mysticism of history and that these concepts are in the past, and that's true in a sense, but it's also, not. When we look at the continuation of things like the carceral justice system, specifically policing and prison in the U.S., but that these issues are global. When we look at colonialism, imperialism, there are active attacks on people at the margins of identity. And as a trans person, I feel that very deeply myself. I'm blessed with the privilege of whiteness, I guess. But, this oppression is something we all have to deal with in our own ways. I was really struck by what Sandrine said about unity and about togetherness. There's really an importance in this day and age of finding your own self-love. It's really hard, especially when the world is telling you, criminalizing you, diminishing you at every turn, and trying to steer you away from that. And speaking for myself, transness saved my life, and finding myself allowed me to find the others in my life who have carried me through. And, Naomi, it's great that you're here, because you were very much one of those people for me. When I think about the start of my activist journey, it very much leads through the Cork Migrant Centre. The last 2 years, I moved back from Cork back into the US, to my home of New York, where I was on the front line seeing police brutality in a very real way following the murder of George Floyd and the continuation of lynchings of Black people across this country. Recently, I've moved to Minneapolis, where just 2 weeks ago, a young man by the name of Amir Locke was murdered in his sleep, basically, given 9 seconds to react to police before they shot him, not even, more like 2 seconds. So I really want to stress the importance that, especially to the audience who may not have, direct experience with these things, that these issues are very much alive and need to be confronted. And the best way to do that is radical love, both for yourself and for others. There's really nothing stronger than our connections with ourselves and with each other. And the more we love each other and love ourselves in like radical ways is the way we will lead ourselves to liberation. Like true liberation and freedom is the ultimate goal. To quote Assata Shakur, we have nothing to lose but our chains. And there's a lot of work to do, as Erica said. We have a long way to go, but I am so thrilled to be a part of this panel where, I look around to all the people around me doing the work in their own ways. And if we all just keep doing that, liberation will come. I truly believe that. Thank you.
Ooh, where did Ash go? What, they took him off the screen? Where'd he go?
She's right here.
There you are. There you are. Okay, I thought we would share the screen for a moment. I'm sorry, Ash. I just, since we're not, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. So I just want to follow up. I can't let that go without talking about, so Frederick was facing literal death at every turn. The courage he had to speak his truth may have cost him his life at every turn. We know this, the time he was living in. And it strikes me that when you dig into his more of his personal tics and personal, the ways that he practiced self-care, which is what you're talking about. People don't imagine that people practiced self-care back then, but he taught himself the violin, so he could play music and settle himself. There's rumors that he was really found time to work out on his own, and just do push-ups and exercise, and that was very important to him to keep himself strong, not just to be strong to carry his trunks of books around, but when someone feels strong, those endorphins that course through you. So I wonder, what are some of the ways that you radically love yourself? Is it through diet or through different books that you read or things like that, just to give people an idea?
Yeah, music and creativity is something I've found that has really helped. I'm a writer. I love writing poetry. That's been a really big outlet for me personally. And I think for everyone, it's really just searching yourself and searching your heart to find that for yourself, because it's going to appear differently in so many different ways. And I think this panel is a beautiful representation of that. And I just want to say, you make a great point. Frederick was probably, lost his life for his ideals and the things he stood up for and the way he said that. And unfortunately, that is also something that has continued to this day where, people of marginalized groups, once they get to, they're making a difference, we feel that target on our back as well. It's stressing, taking care of yourself. It's stressing, personal health and safety. And it's also just be with the ones you love as much as you can and show that love as much as you can, because life's too short. We don't know when it will get taken away. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. You actually took the last word right out of my mouth. I was going to say having the courage to share yourself with the people that you love is pretty radical as well, because we never know how that's going to turn out, right? And so having the courage to share yourself, that's activism. That's remarkable. Fionnuala, thank you, Ash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who do we have next, Fionnuala?
Before my internet goes again, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Shaza. And Shaza is a computer science student at UCC and currently a member of the UCC Culture Society. She is doing amazing things, and I am excited to listen to her speak.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me today to speak at this great event. I would start with, as you said, I'm a computer science student, nearly different than everyone here's courses, I'd say. So I came to Ireland 3 years ago, and I started college 2 years ago. It took me a while to learn English and stuff. After a while, when I get into college, I joined the UCC Culture Refugee Society. When I entered computer science, or when I get enough, let's say, a little bit of education, I thought, this is how life goes, taking and giving. So at some stage, I thought this is time now to give something, either to the society or to the community here or to anyone in Ireland or outside Ireland. So I started with joining the Culture Refugee Society, and I thought that I can help refugees here by, translating English to Arabic. This is the least I can do. And we started working in a project like Art in Action. It was really great event that we worked in first year, and we are doing now the same project also in second year. It's funded by the European councils, nearly fund around €8,000. So it's really a huge project that we worked in. And as I said, we are working in this again this year. What I would say, what linked me to Douglass Week, and what I think that's why you invited me for this talk, is the idea of collaborating abroad and not just in the country. So after I finished my first year, in the summertime, I had my to-do list, which nearly I have it every year in the summertime to do something in the summer, but then I end up doing nothing, as any student, I think. But that year, which is year 2021, it was a little bit different for me. I decided to really do something. At the beginning of the summer, I get an offer from a VMware company, it's an IT company in Cork, to be a project manager for a program there. And at the same time, even that I had that, let's say part-time job, or not really a job, but like that time. And I remembered my cousin told me before about can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I remember my cousin told me about an initiative that worked for education, and it's placed in Syria. It's called Abjad Initiative Organization. So if you want, can you please, just before I introduce Abjad, I would prefer to play the video to introduce Abjad to you. It will be easier, and it will show you who Abjad and what they do. So if you can play the video from your side.
أهلا، كن مزارع، معلم، بروفيسور باللغة الإنجليزية، شاطر وبقرأ. هدفي بالحياة الآن أصير آلة الرسم، معلمة، أستاذ، بدي أصير أستاذ وأعلم الأطفال. مهندسة. يا سلام، ليش؟ لأني حابة أن نرجع على الغوطة، نرجع نساعد أهلي مشان نعمر البيوت تبعنا، لأنه تهجروا وانقصفوا بالطيران.
خلال عملنا في مركز أبجد منذ أيار 2018 لاحظنا مدى التأثير السلبي للحرب في سوريا على المنظومة التعليمية وعلى المستوى التعليمي للأطفال وخصوصا في المراحل الأولى من التعليم. نتيجة لذلك وجدنا من ضرورة التركيز على العملية التعليمية في مراحل مبكرة من التي تم العمل عليها سابقا، وتوجيه اهتمامنا لمواجهة واقع الأمية المتفشي عند الأطفال وخاصة في المخيمات، مستفيدين من خبراتنا السابقة والمكتسبة خلال السنة والنصف السابقة. هذا ما دفعنا لتغيير جذري في بنية مركز أبجد التعليمي وتطوير برنامج عملنا لتكون متدرجة ومتكاملة تضمن الارتقاء التدريجي والمنهجي لمستوى الطالب. وقررنا أن يكون اليوم الدولي لمحو الأمية انطلاقة مرحلة جديدة من عملنا تحت مسمى مبادرة أبجد للتعليم.
أساس قبل ما تصير هي الدورة ما كنت أعرف لا أقرأ ولا أكتب، ما دخلت المدرسة خالص. كنت أعاون أبوي بالزراعة واشتغل معه بالصيف. كنت أقضي وقتي بالزراعة وبالصقية. ما جينا لهون صرت أبوي سجلني بالمدرسة صرت أعرف أقرأ وأكتب.
تمام، وهلأ شلون بتشعر بحالك؟
أستاذ مبسوط.
Yeah, so I would say this would be better introduction than me talking about them. So I would say this is what make me think about, okay, now I get education, Ireland, give me education, give me safe home, give me so many things. It's time for me to give other now. And as I said, this is how life goes. Never was taking and taking and taking. It's always taking and giving. So when I saw that, I wanted to share my skills that I have, or with the least I can give to these kids or to these people there who really need education. There is a say, we say it in Arabic, I'm not sure if it's also in English, but it says, don't give me a fish, teach me fishing. And this is what makes Abjad special or stand out from the other organizations who help refugees and Syrians around the world. They don't, think about fundraising more, of course, obviously they will need that at some stage, but this is not the main thing they're working on. They're working on teaching these kids so that when they grow up, they can help each other, they can help themselves. If they get educated, they will become a doctor, engineers, as you saw in the video. So when I thought about the idea, I contacted Abjad, and when I talked to them, they asked me to tell them what can I give to them or what can I give these kids. And it never was that easy, previously before COVID, let's say, because this is what, let's say this is maybe the only benefit we get from COVID, or maybe one of the only benefits that we get from COVID, that make everything online and everything possible via online. So when I saw how that easy, I thought, okay, teaching online also is possible. And even though they are in the other side of the world, that doesn't mean I can't help them with online. We can all help them. So I decided when I was talking to the HR, we were talking about what can I give them. And I said, math, science, English, Arabic, everything you actually want or need, I can help with. And an idea came to my mind in the meeting while I'm talking to her that why don't I teach them programming? As I'm studying computer science, I can teach them the easiest thing in computer science, which is Python language. It's really easy and it's very beneficial for, of course, the students who's over 18 or, in college or universities who really need skills to upskill or, to work for companies outside Syria or even work from Syria online for companies. And that's what we did. We did a workshop with another team member. His name is Osama. We worked together to do the program. It was 2 months program teaching Python to these students in Syria. It was really great because I would say we gave them the first step to their career or to their knowledge or skills, and now they can complete from there by YouTube videos, by online resources. Now everything available for free, but you just need them to give them you just need to give them the first step, let's say, or little push or anything to help them to do that. After that, I saw that the Abjad team needs some support with technical stuff like Excel, Word, how to use Microsoft Suite. And it was a good idea to give them workshops about that. And I can remember that the time I did them the Excel workshop, I streamed it from my home, and there was like all the teachers sitting there in the school, most of them sharing laptops and looking at the screen. And I can teach them all the stuff, where to go, where to click, about functions, about everything in Excel. And as I said, this is never was that easy before online, or let's say, platforms like Zoom, like Teams, or any other screen sharing platforms. So after I did that, I started, keep working with Abjad as much as I can. And now they're working with people outside Syria to tell stories, for example, for kids every week. They're choosing influencers or Arabic speakers around the world to tell stories to kids there. And it's actually really nice, because these kids don't know anything. If you ask these kids, what's the last thing you know in this world, they would say the last tent we have in the camp. This is the last thing they know. So we need all to see what we can do for them, what we can give them. Maybe artists can contact them and, show them how to do art, how to draw, or maybe, I don't know, there's so many things we can do it over online this time. Maybe cooking, showing them how to put milk and chocolate and these things. It's really easy these days. So I would say, this is what I would say about Abjad. And they're looking also for people, different languages like English, German, who also will tell stories to these kids to teach them the language. So we are in need for everyone here, for youth, for all people, for young people, for everyone who can help with an hour per day or an hour per week. We need you. So, yeah.
Shahza, that was amazing and very, very informative. And I'm just blown away by the amazing work that you're doing and that the organization is doing. What stood out to me more was seeing the young people and seeing the strength they have, and not going, a lot of the time people look at the vulnerability, but the organization, you all were able to kind of identify their strengths and kind of create a space where they can be empowered and they feel like they're capable to do what you know that they can do. So I think that's so powerful, and I think that's a message that needs to be highlighted time and time again, the importance of having a strength-based approach. And the work you're doing is truly remarkable, and the idea of teaching coding a universal language and bringing creativity into it as well, to teach them art, other means to express themselves and to tell their story and destroy the single narrative. I think that is so fascinating. And as Shahza said, check out the organization, see how you can contribute, see how you can support, see how you can help, and what can you bring to the table to support. So that was really informative.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. These barriers, Fionnuala, that are put up for education, these are barriers against children, which are ultimately barriers against women.
Yes.
And so to be taking this by the reins, it goes back to what Frederick said. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And so you build them now. If anybody could not look at that video and see the hope and the pride in that young man's eyes when he said, I accomplished whatever it was he said he had learned. I mean, that's it right there, right? It got all of us. So thank you so much, Shahza, for what you're doing. Thank you. And next up, we're going to hear from someone who may be one of the people you were saying could help out with the kids, an artist, a singer-songwriter of Irish, Sierra Leonean descent. She performs a unique blend of Afro, folk, soul across solo projects and with some awesome collaboration. She also acts, so maybe I need to chat with you, Loa, and she's just super, super talented. Let's hear from Loa.
Good evening, everyone. It's a joy to be here. I'm very humbled to be in such remarkable company. So I guess my main life project currently is the work that I do in the creative world. So I'll talk a bit about my journey and some of the challenges I faced and what gets me through those challenges. And as Fionnuala and Erica mentioned earlier, I'm actually probably going to be repeating things that earlier speakers have said, tools that I use quite concretely. So I feel like there's a certain level of human connection and consistency in what keeps us happy. So I have an Irish mother and a Sierra Leonean father, and I grew up in Maynooth in Kildare. I was born in Kenya. We lived in Sierra. I'm a bit quiet. Let me see if I can pull myself up. How is that? Is that any better? Yeah, great. So I lived in Sierra Leone and Gambia. So we traveled a lot as a family, and that had, you know, pros and cons. But it definitely opened, as a child learning, it opened me up to a bunch of different places and ways of living and cultures. And while that had its challenges, overall, I think I came into my adult life knowing that there's more than one way to live, and you always have choices. So when I went to university, I studied pharmacy first, which is most people don't expect me to say. But I did train and finished my qualification as a chemist. But all throughout my childhood and my adolescence, I was always playing music. I played violin in the orchestra. I was in choirs, and I played traditional music. And I basically did every musical thing I possibly could, and the same all through college. So I sometimes missed lectures and everything because I was like, I have a gig, I've got to practice. And I think I was more known for my gigs than I was for my grades. But we won't get into that too much because I made it through okay. And then after working for a couple of years, realized that I actually really wanted to pursue a career in the arts. So I took a very scary decision to leave my job and go into the art world. So, which is where I am today. And so I did more musical education, and then I did some acting education. And I just built my way from kind of nothing, really. There's no one in my family that's a musician. I didn't necessarily come from a long line of artists. However, I always had really wonderful artistic friends, and I had some really wonderful early mentors who really supported me and gave me encouragement. So some of the biggest challenges I would say that I encountered early on were very much around worthiness and feeling this deep sense of not being good enough and imposter syndrome, like Deputy Mayor mentioned earlier. And because I was Black and a woman, I sometimes felt I just shouldn't really be there, and maybe I should just be a bit quieter, or just like, I'm getting by okay, why do I have to draw so much attention to myself? And that would be happening internally, while externally I'd be like on a huge stage and singing my heart out. So there was this kind of double narrative happening where I would just get up there and do things, but there was this still quiet voice of fear. And I always questioned if I belonged anywhere and felt so different all the time. And there was just nobody like me except my siblings, perhaps. And we were all very strong characters anyway. And I think the probably the main two challenges, but there was also the challenge of skills. You know, when you're doing something like the arts, it's not enough to just kind of fake it till you make it. You also have to be able to show up and do the gig, and you have to know how to sing, and you have to be physically fit, and you have to know how to work the band and whatnot. So there were, in those early years of having left pharmacy and making my way in the artistic world, I had a lot of kind of internal battles. But I would say for me, what worked what has worked and continues to be something that practices I use to make my way in the world. And I definitely am a very spiritual person, and my personal faith is Christianity, but I know for everyone there's some form of spirituality or something that keeps you going when the going gets tough, and kind of a deep place of safety you can go to. That no matter how well your job is going, or how safe your country is, or whether you're fighting with your family or not, or maybe you've lost family, there's some part of you that knows deep down that your worth, your remarkability is just because you woke up that morning and you took a breath. You're valuable. That's it. Before you did anything, before you put your shoes on or had your breakfast, you're valuable. And through practicing that over the years, I've been able to grow in my sense of kind of worthiness before I ever step on a stage. So I don't need an applause, but the applause is great, so it's all an extra. And then one thing that's been brought up a lot is community. And this is something that I don't think we can ever underestimate. Like, even as I was describing there, she is creating an international community of help and support for kids, which is so remarkable in itself. But there's always people around us, and leaning into friendship and fellowship with your co-professionals or people who are like you in some ways, and having a really wide support group and asking for help is so empowering, but also is very human and vulnerable. So I'm telling myself this because I definitely in the past have suffered from kind of independence mindset of thinking, because I didn't really always believe I belonged, I had to prove that I could do it on my own. And as I've gotten more mature, I've gotten much better at like reaching out to, and now I hire my friends in my creative work, and some of them are my greatest collaborators. And I have I seek financial help. I look for grants. I seek help therapeutically and in all the possible ways. And I just lean into my humanity a lot, in that it takes a village. It literally takes a village to get anything done. And even, this whole week, we saw the two founders at the beginning. Like, it's much more fun anyway to do things with people, and you achieve so much more. And as we've said, Frederick had his Anne by his side and many collaborators to achieve those big things. You just, reduce the pressure on yourself and do your little part, and then the whole thing goes, And then the final thing is, as we've talked about a lot this evening, is for me has been getting skills, because once you have your internal world right, you do need to know how to play the guitar, and you need to practice, and you need to practice the dance routines and know the songs, and funnily, a lot of things in the middle during the pandemic, I was actually meant to emigrate to the United States. And I thought I was leaving Ireland and starting a new life. And of course, force majeure, sometimes life has other plans. So the week we went into lockdown was the very day we went into lockdown was the day my flight was booked. And I pushed it forward by 6 weeks, thinking it would all be over in 6 weeks. But 6 weeks later, I was back working as a pharmacist. So I found myself, from having done many years away from pharmacy, but always keeping my registration and my ongoing education and doing kind of covering for people. So I kept my hand in. I found myself back working all the time in the middle of the pandemic, and actually frontlining, but also still making music and still acting and doing little roles. And it kind of felt like this incredibly unexpected culmination of years and years of exploration and persistence, and constantly committing to myself, committing to be my best self and also give the most of myself. And I was really busy, so I thought I would not be in Ireland, and suddenly I found myself doing a lot and being able to contribute culturally in ways that felt really valuable for me, to keep my head above water, and also were of value to our community. So in a way, I guess, for me, it's always about filling yourself up first in all the ways you can. And then you're just overflowing, and you just feel so happy to give all of whatever it is that your special gifts are to give. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Loa. I think you and I need to sit somewhere over 2 nice glasses of wine and talk all night. You know, I'm an artist too, and I understand. I'm in Hamilton here in the States, and people, when they find out I'm in Hamilton, they think, oh, you've made it. But, you know, I just took a voice lesson right before this Zoom call, and I'm going to a rehearsal for Brush Up right after this call. In fact, I'm going to be a little late, but that's okay, because you continue to practice. And I think this is a good time for Nula to just kind of wrap this whole call. You continue to practice. You continue to dedicate yourself to excellence. You never, never stop. You put one foot in front of the other. You don't stop to worry about, is what I'm doing good enough? Is what I'm doing remarkable? No, you just keep going like Frederick. I want everyone to uplift, seek out women in politics, find those politicians, find those people who maybe you think would be a great politician, but they don't know it. You know, I'm sure Mary would agree with me. There's some women out there who are like, oh, no, I just want to support. But that's the way a society has been built, to try and convince women that they belong behind the curtain, supporting the man and that kind of thing. So seek them out. And if you feel like you are that woman, seek out the circle of support. As Ash was saying, seek out the people around you who you can share yourself with, and maybe they can reflect back to you. You should be running for this. You know what? You know what I mean? So get education and give education, as Shaza was talking about, and practice radical self-love. Say it out loud. Tell yourself how wonderful you are. Tell yourself how remarkable you are. I don't know about you, Fionnuala, but I'm remarkable. Are you remarkable?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
No, I just want to thank everybody for our amazing, beautiful, remarkable speakers, every single one here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know it's a busy time. It's a Friday. You should be resting after such a long week. But what Paul said, one foot in front of the other, and find your network, find your circle of solidarity, and surround yourself with those people to uplift you. And yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's it, folks. Naomi, I missed you so much. I wish I could have spoken more with you, Auntie Naomi, but we will catch up.
Paul, your family will meet. We call.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just want to also just give a shout out to the young people who are watching from the Cork Migrant Centre, and young people from the US who are also watching. I hope you found this webinar inspiring and interesting and motivating. And so thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.